Office of Pest Management Task Force meeting on June 13 at 1 p.m. in the afternoon.
rigmarole that we always do. You all signed in downstairs and asked that if we did have a fire alarm, that nobody runs off. Make sure that we get you checked out so that the fire department doesn't have to come in here and look for you. Bathrooms are just down the hallway on the right-hand side. With that, I guess we're going to take off. Thank you again for coming. We'll go through roll call first. And I had a call or an email from John Bolts, and he said he would not be here. It was a last-minute thing. He thought he would be here, and then at last minute he said he just couldn't do it. So, Lynn Evans. Yep. Jimmy Fox. Yes, sir. Ken Frederick. Here. Hope Hemminghouse. Yep. Wilbur Soule. Here. Kirk Smith. Here. All right. We've got a form, so we'll continue on. Materials you guys all got in front of you, all got the agenda. Behind that you have the listing of changes. That's basically the listing of the changes that occurred from the last statutory package to the new statutory package, and that was kind of to keep you for having to read the whole thing again. One thing I do notice, there was a mistake on 3531. It's we had said A, 7, 8, and 13. It actually should be B, 7, 8, and 13. So if you just look on the next page, yeah, B, 7, 8, and 13. And actually they're highlighted in there as well. So if you're looking, you would see that. So you also got a page that looks like this, and that's just showing how everything got renumbered, trying to make it sensible for maybe it's more my calling or not. I like it in a certain way so it makes sense to me, so that's what we're doing. With that, you can see there's a lot of things on the agenda again. And so what I wanted to do is remind everybody that one of the things that we have to do is we have to develop a report that goes to the legislature, and so the important part of that is the statutory part of it. And I think we're pretty close on that. You know, you saw the few changes that we had, and so what I'd like to do is I'd like to start first with the statutory package and see is there anything that, please, if they're just grammatical corrections, things like that, let's not bring that. I mean, just send me an email on that and make the changes. But if it's a substantive type change, let's talk about it now. So I'm not planning on going through this page by page. I just wanted to give everybody one last shot at it. And again, I'm willing to, if people have ideas or whatever, to continue to feed them in. So to make sure there's nobody up here first, and I'm going to do that again. Just a reminder: to go to task force members and try to go together. Okay. Nothing. Go ahead, sir. Introduce yourself again.
I'm Larry Bard with local canine company Nose Nose. I'd like to propose that we, since we're in the process of redoing all this, there's a big issue out there, I know with the OPM as well as with some of the PCOs, of how do we handle canines for doing bed bug inspections. And Jack, I sent you after the last meeting the BMPs, the bed bug testing protocol for canines, and my suggestion we kind of try to incorporate that into the documents so that we have a control over this down the road.
Okay.
Should that be in the statute or the rule?
I don't know.
Is that a device?
A dog? Yeah, a dog would be a device, yeah. I don't know if anybody else in the industry wants to comment. I guess in my mind, I was kind of looking at it as what we may want to do is more by, we're supposed to be a consumer protection agency, by through policy or something, just saying that if you're looking for somebody, you want to make sure that your dog has gone through these processes or procedures, and then we actually could provide that information on our website. Say these are the kinds of things, if somebody's going to bring on a dog, they should use these processes, or if somebody's looking to hire someone, they should be asking them about which process they've gone through.
Yeah, I just think we should do something. I don't know what that is, but I know that the industry lost the use of canines for termites because they didn't control the dogs and the people that were using them. I would like to prevent that from happening with pet dogs.
Yeah, but you have control over the license. I'm sorry, Harvey Logan, Western Exterminator. You have control over the licensee that's using this stuff, and he has to be present for every inspection. So that's the ultimate authority and control that you have. I'm not arguing for or against the certification of the dog, but ultimately the licensee is the one that's going to be on the hook.
Correct. Correct. And I guess we're just looking at it from a consumer protection standpoint. We want to make sure that they're not just going and I'm going to get a beagle and I'm going to start saying I'm checking for bed bugs. And I want to have a beagle that's actually, I can prove that it's gone through some process. And I was neglectful as well. I'm sorry, again, the agency director is here, and I just want to introduce him. Director Don Butler is coming. I appreciate Don coming in and sitting in on this meeting. Thank you, Don. Any other comments, thoughts? Go ahead, Kevin.
Stand seated.
I would prefer people stand that way. I think that your voice projects a little bit better around the room. So.
Kevin Etheridge, representing contractors for my pest control. Draw your attention to page 23. Are we keeping the business license at $5,000? I've tried to negotiate this now for the last 3 or 4 task force meetings.
Well, thanks for asking about that again, Kevin.
Do you want it higher? You can throw me out at any time.
No, actually, again, we haven't changed that, and the reason I haven't changed it is because to change it, we have to go back to the legislature if we put it at some lower level. And through rule, you see where we have set the business license at. So again, I was hoping that would put people's minds at ease. It hasn't. Do other people have the same concern? And if that's the case, I think you had suggested, $2,500 or something like that would make you feel better, right? I mean, that still doesn't make you feel good. I understand.
Yeah, I just bring it up that much. Believe it or not, Kevin Etheridge, contractor, said, believe it or not, I think that's the only markup that I have. I understand.
Okay. Okay. Any comments from the task force members on the business license cost, or in the statute with the level set up?
Well, you guys go on.
It's in the rule. Okay. Okay. All right. You had other, Kirk? You had other?
Page 1.
Page 1. Funny you said that. A glossary? Yeah.
Go ahead. Just keep rolling, Kirk.
Page 1, section 3.102, number 3. I was a bit confused. We're going to be placed under Environmental Services Division, right? Is that the proposal?
Well, that's the way it's currently working, and I would foresee it continuing that way, yes.
Because I'm reading this, okay, we're saying Environmental Services, which is responsible for regulating seed, feed, and agricultural chemicals. If we're going to put structural in there, I'd like to see that reworded to be more encompassing than just agricultural chemicals. Now we're using chemicals outside the agricultural realm.
I think this is from one of the original meetings. One of the things I talked about is keeping this as a separate line, based on the fact that I knew the Aggies didn't want us to open up the statute, because then there could be stuff going on there. And in my mind, I thought we were putting it in a separate article, and that's why this was being kept as a separate piece. Okay.
Okay. Page 6.
6.
Yeah.
I haven't been 2, 3, and 4.
They corrected them. I like it. Yeah.
Just a second. I'm blanking there.
Oh yeah, you gotta keep up with it.
Go ahead and talk.
All right, page 6 under number 22, the definition of pesticide. Any substance or mixture of substances intended to be used for defoliating plants. I know that comes out of your ag definition, but is there anybody out here that actually uses chemical to defoliate plants in the structural business? I don't see the sense for that particular terminology. Under section number 23, political subdivisions. I'm all for putting schools down there, but I've been involved with schools for a long time in the IPM programs. There's a lot of misconceptions on how a school is actually set up politically. I'm not sure how we would deal with that. Because the school district is its own unique system. It's not regulated under a state or a county. Well, they're under the state agency, but not county or city. So, who would be the responsible person for that school district? Would it be the facilities manager? I'm just throwing some questions out there on how to set that up. Maybe more in the rules section than the statute.
Well,
What's that? That's a trick. I mean, just
what's your
Maricopa-
specific concern? I guess this is a definition.
Well, in Maricopa County alone, you've got over 82 school districts just to deal with.
Okay.
So are we going to have a QP for each individual school district? And who would that person be, the facilities manager for that district? We got some districts that are 2 schools and some like Mesa that are 110 schools. So I'm not sure how to handle that, in this package.
Well, I think what I'm looking at is the way it's currently written. Yes,
Yeah.
the school district would have to have a QP.
Okay.
So it would be 82 school districts within Maricopa County would have a QP.
Okay. Because when that attempt was first made by the ex-executive director, he got a long, strong political opposition from the school districts.
Was it the QP or was it the business license?
It was both, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of schools do contract with companies, as far as I'm aware of. That's the way it's
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think you asked that question last time, or somebody asked how many
Yeah.
school districts there were in Maricopa. So you're 82. Yeah, that number. Appreciate that. So.
Okay. Page 7.
So your concern, and just to finish,
Yeah.
you raised the issue. So your concern is that the school districts will continue to be resistant to this, having to have a QP.
Yeah, but I'd like to have it maybe spell out in rules what we really mean by a school district. I don't know how that's set up politically as a political subdivision. So, it's a tough one.
I don't know. Go ahead, Casey.
Current members of the task force, by defining it as a political subdivision, basically, anywhere in the rules where it refers to political subdivision, it includes a school district. So the district can pick who their QP is going to be as long as they're qualified. So whoever fits the definition and rule of
So, but are we going to allow where you say that a QP can qualify other political subdivisions? Are we going to be in that situation where we have one QP who's responsible for multiple school districts?
Well, as the rules set out and as we talked about at the last meeting, Jack would have the authority to allow a QP of a political subdivision to be a QP over multiple political subdivisions, but again, they'd have to ask for permission for that. It wouldn't be automatic to do it initially.
So like in a county like Maricopa County, we have 4 different departments that do pesticides. So I can envision where we have one QP that could be responsible for all 4 different departments. But school districts are a little bit different the way they're set up. So I'm not sure.
All right.
Number page 7 at the very bottom. This is when we get into the qualified applicator test and that sort of thing. I think it's more appropriate in rule, and I apologize for jumping in, but having been involved in the last review of the current exams, I'd like to see something in there where it stipulates that the exams have to be reviewed and or rewritten maybe on an every 5-year basis, something like that. Just because of the amount of change in the industry, especially with control tactics, equipment, pesticides, ideas, these sorts of things. Just to bring the exams up to date. That was one of the original problems we had, is the exams were so out of date and fairly antiquated. We're trying to bring them back up to a more modern approach. So, just an idea.
Okay.
Who would you suggest review the exams.
Well, last time, when we were a commission, they brought together a number of people that were specialists in various fields. So you had entomologists, a plant pathologist, a weed expert, you know, you had a panel of people put together to do that.
My only concern is with that is if we write a law that becomes meaningless if we don't do it. I mean, we become in violation of the law if we can't get it done every 5 years. I mean, I think that's a great, that's where we want to be.
Right.
But can we be there? I'm not certain. I mean, the way if I'm going to spend time sitting down redoing that, I mean, it's I hate. To me personally, I would like to not put it in law or rule. I think I'd like us to operate that way, but I wouldn't like to.
What do you guys currently do in ag? How often?
It's Kurt, I can tell you, I was about,
Yeah.
from practical, personal, doing it 5 years, darn tough to
Yeah.
pull it off. Because we haven't done it, we best, with the best intentions, it's been way longer than that, because it's not easy.
Well, maybe just something generic that the exam should be reviewed periodically, something for that nature.
I don't think we need it in the rule. I think that's
Okay.
what we will do, and that's what we want to do.
I'm just going back on previous history of the commission, so, okay.
They're not here anymore.
I know, I hear you. Page 9.
Maybe Kurt can make sure we volunteer.
Well, I think he helped us.
I did, yeah. He was part of it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Page 9, number 12. We have language throughout the statute and the rules talking about the wood destroying insect inspection report form. I don't think this committee's ever seen that form. Are we going to be involved in looking at it and making some changes to it?
Highly unlikely.
So who makes that decision then on what's appropriate or not?
The PMAC I would believe would be the more appropriate group to look at that when we get to the point of redoing the form if there's something we need to do. Again, we set in law what has to be in there, but the design of the form will be PMAC.
Okay.
Fine. Needs to be changed.
Okay, well, that was my
Priorities.
Yeah. Page 10, number 12.
Okay. Yes. And you guys in the audience too, make sure to remind me how I'm trying to do it.
Sorry, I'm jumping around. I was busy last night.
Had nothing better to do, right?
I know. This is where the new agency, you guys, are going to provide and conduct classes to train individuals in preparation. So Department of Ag now is going to have classes to help people pass the exams. Is that the idea?
You know, we currently doing
Ag?
those right now, right?
Initial license training,
Initial license training, we've been doing that.
4 times a year.
Yeah, and we work with, in ag, we work with university.
Yeah.
We passed some money through and then we've done some training classes.
Okay. Now, okay, that's all I need, so.
Okay.
So you're going to open up the door for now the same thing for the structural side of it, basically.
And I think there are already some.
Because you've been doing that for a while. haven't you?
We've been doing it for
Yeah.
last 100 years at least.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know how that fit in.
There's enough people that have classes, so
Yeah.
there's not no lack of
Oh, yeah.
being able to get it.
Okay. Go ahead. Page.
Yeah, page 12, section A, the pest management fund is established. Maybe I'm a little dense, but can somebody explain to me what that really is going to be? And what money you're going to fund into? Is that just something you're creating now for future fees, fines? We talked about it before, but I'm still a little confused about the whole
No,
concept.
pest management fund has been in existence. That's always been the funding mechanism for the Office of Pest Management previously, and it will
Yeah,
continue to exist.
so it's the open,
Yes.
where everything is funded
Yes.
into. But the TARs are separate in a different, do they go into this fund as well?
Yes.
Okay. Just curious.
And if anybody else is moving along, if you have concern or comment, please speak up.
page 25. Moving right along. You like that? Yeah. Under E number 2, talk about exemptions. So, emergency application of pesticides that are class 3 or 4 toxicity are exempted. That I'm familiar with. Now, if we had to use a class 1 or a class 2 toxic rated pesticide, there will be no exemption for that. Those individuals applying that product would have to be certified. Is that kind of what we're getting at here? I'm just wondering if that needed to be spelled out or not. So.
Let me just get through these. Oh, and because application exempt from notification requirement described in subsection B and C. Yeah, so this is just a notification that's exempt from that.
Right. So if it's a class 1 or 2, then there is no exemption for it.
For notification.
Correct. Okay. Page 29. First, 3524, section C. Talk about wood destroying insect reports. On the second sentence, we talked about places that are accessible to the inspector on the date the inspection was made. Should we add the terms date and time, or is date sufficient? Or does that get too difficult? I'm just worried about somebody coming in early morning doing an inspection and seeing nothing, and then later on in the day, a termite tube pops up. And someone can nail him that he didn't spot it because they saw it on the same day they did the inspection.
I think, sure we can do that. I think that,
I think it's being too nitpicky.
yeah, I was going to say, I think, practically speaking, I mean, it's that's an operational thing. And, and I'm making those too quick.
Okay, I'm sorry. There's another nitpicky one. Page 31, number 4. Applying pesticides in a manner that is inconsistent with the label. Throughout this document, you guys always use the term label and labeling. Should we add label before labeling there as well?
Yeah, actually, probably should be.
Because sometimes you got
Label is what's attached to the container, and labeling is what accompanies.
Yeah, so you got specimen labels and everything else. So. Okay. Page 31, maybe we can just comment from the folks out here too. Number 13, this has to do with final grades. Failure to provide proper final grade treatment within 12 months of the original pre-treat. I know there's been times when some people have not been given permission to go on the property and do a final grade within that 12-month period. And I had the same comments in the rules. Has anybody run into that out in the real world, where you can't get out there and do the final grade? I'm just worried that if you can justify why you couldn't do the final grade, then you should be covered. It just really does tell me.
That's what we would do. And that's, again, the law is always written to deal with things, but you always have to apply some common sense to it. And that's
Yeah, I mean, the house I pre-treated yesterday is not going to be done for 24 months. So I want to be able to do the final grade for 2 years.
Well, I just didn't want
It's an easy one.
We're not going to dig deep for stuff like that.
We got that on tape.
From me,
And actually, there's these guys. My name is
probably a policy.
Is it?
For that, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's on the website.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
I didn't see that, when I went through the rules, I didn't see that mentioned in the rules either.
Policy?
No, concerning the final grade treatment.
And again, because of, it's, people are supposed to normally do things, but we have policy to allow for those practical situations where there's reasons why.
Okay.
Very free time.
Marco, yeah, you're good.
We're getting close to that.
On page 32, number A, maybe you can explain to me a little more, Jay. This talks about what the director can do if he finds violation, issue a notice of violation, cease and desist order, these sorts of things. I know your charter, you're being asked by the federal government to enforce federal law, which is the way. When would a situation occur where the violation was so out of order that you decided, this is too much for us, we're going to give the federal government to take over? Have you ever run into that situation?
Run into that all the time in agriculture.
Because this doesn't stipulate that you would do that. This just leaves it with the director. So it's always the director's decision on what to do basically? Okay.
And from the agriculture side of things, it's always been when there's environmental concerns, when there's human health concerns, where we've told you to do something and you don't do it. Right. Those are ones that you go over that line. There's going to be some type of regulatory action taken. And I think as I get more comfortable and familiar with this, we will come out with something along that line as well. So people will understand what they can't do. When people blatantly do something wrong.
Okay.
So with that, I guess with the completion of the statutory package, I think we can actually start drafting on something towards the legislature on some of the things that we put in here. I still think we need to lay the rules along and give more direction, but we can continue to move forward with that. I guess what I want to get onto the rule package, but there are several things that you see I put on the agenda that are part of that whole discussion. And I'm thinking maybe we just need to set up some more subcommittees. I had asked Lynn and Kevin Etheridge to look at this groundwater reporting thing. And Kevin sent an email, and I've given you a copy of that email. Basically, Kevin sent it off to Lynn, and Lynn said thanks, and we'll set up a meeting later on. And then Casey has reminded me that all of these meetings are public meetings as well, the subcommittee meetings, so we have to post and everything like that, so I'm glad we didn't carry on. I'm wondering if we couldn't set up a golf course group.
You've got several members in the audience today.
Well, I'm looking at
half your audience is golf.
Well, I'd like at least one of the task force members to sit on that. And maybe two of you. I don't know. But I was thinking the two of you, and then someone else. I don't know, Carmela, are you the most likely candidate for that? So just to look at how we could address the golf courses if we're going to move them under agriculture, what we need to do to make those changes. So again, we'll do that then. Okay. Groundwater, again, we had Lynn and Kevin. The email, if you look at that email, I gave you guys a copy of that email. After seeing this, I think it's it narrows the focus quite a bit in my mind at least. And he listed a whole bunch of things, and we'll get this put up on the web so that we can kind of look, see what the email is. But there are, I think the things that when you're doing termite work around the outside of a foundation, those are things that potentially will need to be reported. And the good thing about that is we're already reporting with tarp, so it should be an easy fix. We can put a box on the tarp form that allows that to count towards this reporting. The other one that I think is probably the big one is the pre-emergent treatment, which we talked about earlier, which will maybe is on golf courses. Is that what we were thinking? I thought that's what
One item. Yes, it's one item.
And then maybe for right-of-ways as well. I don't know if that's a big pre-emergent market or not. But so those are two areas. And so I guess Lynn, Kevin, and I, and is there anybody else that wants to volunteer for that committee? Is there anybody that deals with rights of way here? Okay, party of three. Okay. We'll continue on our blog. We'll just set up a meeting or a conference call or whatever, and we can do that through the state system if we just want to do the conference call. People can call in too. So, okay.
Jack,
Yes.
yes, Ken, if he wants
This one with the chemical reporting?
Groundwater, yeah.
to. Groundwater.
Yeah.
So you're, yeah, sure, I should be.
Okay. Great.
Sorry about that.
That's good. Good. Thank you. Appreciate that. What to regulate? Devices. And this is potentially a hot topic as well. And so again, I'd like to, not when I actually had Ken's name down, because you're the one industry guy, but now we need some other folks that, okay?
Larry Bard.
I got an email that, give me your phone number, okay?
602.
Or you know what, give me your phone number afterwards, that way you don't have to tell
No
everybody. Anyone else? Devices? Okay. RV Logan.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so we've got, sure. Okay, we've got a party of three, I guess kind of four, because I'm kind of sitting in on all these, so again, the reason I'm bringing those up in front is because as we go through the rules, realize that some of these things I think we're going to come to resolution through these committees, hopefully, and come back to the group as a whole and be satisfied. Okay? With that, I guess we should hit the rules. Is that what we want to do? All right, and again, the copies that I sent out to you were they had highlighting in them, which basically showed all the changes. And then also a little copy that I left you. You look at it, you got to look carefully, but there's gray where the changes were. So. All right. You want to start us off, Kurt?
Sure.
All right.
Page 4, specimen label. Do we need to really define specimen label since it's all part of labeling?
Well, it isn't though. Labeling is what is provided at a producer establishment.
Right.
It will go along with the container. A specimen label is that which you would print off from the internet. You could get from a distributor or something like that, but it didn't originally come in a container.
Well, then what about supplemental labeling?
Supplemental labeling is normally a registrant provided,
Yeah,
like for example, when it comes along line. But again, the specimen labeling in our situation deals with when you're having problems with the container and you have to put something else, you need to provide a specimen label along with that. So that's that.
page 5 under fees, charges, and exemptions. This might have been mentioned in statute, I can't remember, but I was just curious on the, should we had some language that's going to allow flexibility to change these fees over time, or is that not at the discretion of the director?
That is, it has to go through the rule process in order to change fees. And that's why again, the fee levels that are set in statute are fairly high, because otherwise you have to go to the legislature to get further approval to do that. So there's a formal process that we would have to go through changes.
So you're not going to charge Kevin $5,000, you're going to charge him
Yes. For the business license,
$300.
$300, yeah. Okay.
Harvey, yeah, just a question, it really doesn't relate to the amount, but do you anticipate any problems with the legislature in legal, just their rules, never mind?
Yeah.
Okay.
Skip it. Okay. All right. Good.
Under page 6, number 6, applicator registration. It wasn't spelled out later back in the rules, is it? Say you work for company X and you decide to leave, now you're company Y. What's going to be the time frame when that person needs to be registered with the new company? Are we going to do that every application renewal cycle?
No. Now, if I remember correctly, they're supposed to be registered before they do work.
So it can be immediate.
It is. Yes. And you can, and we anticipate the ability to be able to do this online.
Is that spelled out in the rules somewhere? I don't remember.
And then it'd be immediate? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And that will be online, correct?
Yes, that's what we do.
Pay with, pay with a credit card.
Yeah.
What the hell,
Go ahead, Casey.
Kurt, it's Rule 208, beginning on page 22.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed it.
It's getting close to you're getting sleepy.
Oh, here it is, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right? And again, people in the audience, if you've got if there's something that you looked at and you have a comment on, please speak up. Okay?
Page 12.
Feedback?
Exemption. Letter E, number 1. Okay. The way this is written, I used to work for Cooperative Extension of the UA a few years ago. If you read this, the exemption is a person not required to be licensed who provides general information about the label, identification or management of the pest, use of a registered pesticide, does not directly or indirectly charge for the information, and does not make an on-site recommendation. Most cooperative extension people I know who work for the U of A make on-site recommendations all the time. So based on that language, are we going to make them required to have an applicator license?
So when would they be doing this? When they go into
Well, in the golf industry, you've got David Kopeck and Kyle Yuma, they go around making recommendations all the time on what pesticides to use, when to apply them, how to use them, that sort of thing.
No, if they're,
I'm just, it's kind of vague right there, you know, so someone's got to bring that up eventually.
I'm sorry, are they giving you, not to nitpick, but I mean, are they giving recommendations or are they offering the results of their research?
Well, come on, you guys.
Probably both around the label.
Both.
Yeah, I mean,
A lot of times right off the
no,
bat.
agriculture, sorry, go ahead.
So I'm just saying, several times the superintendent they'll come out, take a look at the problem, and make a recommendation.
They're exempt.
Yeah, that's not an issue in agriculture. We work with cooperative extension.
Right, I'm just saying, but this language right here is a bit vague because they do make on-site recommendations. So.
Is that something you deal with in policy?
No, I think we'll probably put an exemption in there if that's what we want to do.
Okay.
Is that I guess is that what people think? And the reason I ask is, people can look at this as unfair competition. I'm hearing that loud and clear often.
Because when I was with Cooperative Extension, I was often asked for my opinion and recommendation on how to get their professional. I did it often.
All right. So we'll probably have to write the exemption for university employees.
Yeah, probably would, yeah.
Okay.
Page 15, letter B. You have this language for every license basis. You got the applicator, the QP, et cetera, whether you have to have good moral character, et cetera, et cetera. Is it spelled out somewhere on who makes that decision on who doesn't have good moral character? Or is that a judgment on the director?
Yeah. Right now, there's a guidance doc. It's on the application, but
We have an application review committee. We also have a policy that has a list of things that are considered moral character crimes, things that are not considered moral character crimes.
that's on the web too.
And that's available on our website. So that's, like I said, it's one of our policies. And then internally, we have an application review committee. When we have that situation, basically we review it and make a recommendation to the acting director, and then the director makes a decision from there.
And I'll tell you the reason why these have been put in these various locations is we didn't want to get into the situation. It seems like you hear about things in California where you got some guy who turns out to be a really bad guy, creepy guy, and they arrest him for something. But he's still licensed by somebody so he can continue on in the business. We wanted the ability to be able to address those people who are bad people, so we couldn't allow them to continue to go into a house. That's what these were written in there for, because we don't want to be in the business of looking at moral character and all that kind of stuff. Okay, go ahead.
Question was brought, but the government has which contractors turn on control. Do you still do the committee with eyewitness?
Yes.
That's a good system.
Page 17 for C for the experience for the applicant. On page 17, section C, I'm just going to comment. I like that. I think that's a good setup. I think that gets rid of a lot of issues that we've had in the past. And I was just. Do we have any comments from the audience on this? I know this was a real critical bugaboo for a lot of people for a long time. I was going to qualify you for QP applications, so, because we're getting rid of all the hours and everything else. Like Jack was saying, once this is set in stone, and that's what gets sent to the governor. So,
the good thing about this is it's black and white. And there's no judgment call, which I think people will be. I think that was one of the concerns with the 3,000 hours. It feels like somebody could get through and somebody else couldn't get through. This makes it black and white. I've read various articles, and one of the things I guess I want to make sure that we're all thinking about this, that we think this is appropriate. I mean, right now we're looking at, again, based on what was said here, we're looking at 2 years of experience for every one of these categories. Personally, I don't think that's right. I don't think that 2 years is the appropriate time frame for every one of these categories that people have to go through. I actually am fiddle farting around with something that's less than that. But I will also say that I've gone to the as-full meetings, and maybe that's the qualifying parties that are already qualifying parties that are there. We have to ensure that we're walking that fine line of not keeping people out, but we're also making sure that we're protecting the people, the general public. And so that's why, again, I keep putting this on the agenda. Are we at that right spot? And during the legislative session, I had the opportunity to go and speak, and that was the question that was asked me. So how are you guys doing this? And this has been a problem, and so like that. So go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Joe Safe for the Arizona Farm Bureau. I think this area is going to involve further discussions and perhaps more detailed discussions than such as some of the things that you've been fiddling around with. I won't use that other word because I don't want that on recording. But I think this is an area for my organization that warrants further discussion. There are other possibilities for achieving this in different ways, and the issue is, once you've accepted regulation, then to your point, what is reasonable, what is appropriate, what is professional, and I think this is an area I know my organization wants further discussions, further interaction with the task force on.
So, go ahead, Ken, because you're very confused about pest control.
I like this. It's what the most of the states around us do. I don't think we're out of the ordinary. In California, you have to have 4 years experience to get a license to do termite work. I think that's a little abusive in my opinion. If I'm wrong on that, Kevin, then slap my hand.
I don't know if it's abusive, maybe excessive.
Excessive, okay. But I think to maintain the professionalism of our industry, the 24 months is not a bad time. It's what all the states around us do. I don't think we're out of the norm here. So if further discussion is needed, that's fine. But from my point of view, I think this is a good starting point. And I don't see it as a bar to entry as compared to the past.
Mr. Chairman, I don't disagree, but I would like what is there in context with some other things that you are apparently thinking about, and but we'll be prepared to discuss at an appropriate time.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
As someone that just completed all those hurdles, I'd be pretty upset if you lower the bar now after I just completed all those hurdles.
A procedural question, you referenced it, I've missed the last 2 meetings unfortunately, but you referenced that you put this out several times. At what point do we, how do we get our final product? I mean, is that what's happening today? Do we need to get comments? Maybe we're doing that? You see where I'm going?
Yeah, I tell you, I would prefer that this committee not say, this is what it is, and this is where we're going at this point in time.
Fine.
The reason I say, I've been working on this thing, and there may be others that are working on this as well, and I guess I would like to, people don't understand when I show it to people and they go, huh? And what I was looking at is we have a tiered approach right now. And I was kind of sticking with the tiered approach, but then allowing...
Based on the different categories.
Yes, but allowing people somehow to come back through, because I think one of the complaints has been is that I get in the business and I want to expand from just general pest to doing termite work, and there's just no way I can do that unless I hire a QP, work under him in my own business. And I understand that would be difficult, but is there a way that we can somehow allow people to loop back through with years of experience or something? Not saying, yeah, you go and you get this license and next year you can go and do this, but you got the license for 5 years. Does that show that you're in the business to stay? And we got to give you the opportunity to work back in. So there's still work that needs to be done in my view, and I haven't come to my grips on it yet, and able to come out and explain this in a fashion that people understand.
So again, just so I know what we're doing, so we're going through it now, you're taking, people are commenting, the committee's commenting, the task force, so we're not going to, after the process today, these aren't final.
Correct.
Which is fine.
Yes.
I'm fine with it, yeah. And I agree. I think this is requires a lot of study, and I think it's going to be it's going to attract a lot of attention, both in this process and potentially the legislature. So I think we need to be very careful that it's done right. With all due respect, a comment about the gentleman from the audience, I think, prepared to be disappointed, because I think that, again, this is a comment that's been made a lot, and I think I, for one, on this task force, am ready to be responsive to that. There'll be people who are in the industry that aren't going to like potentially where we go with the experience levels, but so, one warning.
Yeah, and again, I don't want anybody to, I've gone to all the ASCO meetings, and it's been, I've said it before, and it's been overwhelming support for the 2 years. So, there's a strong support mechanism out there for that as well, but there's, so, go ahead.
There's well over 50 petitions that have been sent into the task force that the task force has never acknowledged the existence of, that specifically requests that the QP be gotten rid of, and say that for the use of unrestricted pesticides, that the QP is a redundant and purely barrier to entry position and serves no legitimate purpose in the regulation of pesticides and their applications in the structural pest control industry.
Henry, can you say your name?
Oh, Henry with International Accommodations. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Harvey, do you have some sort of timetable as to when you will bring this to fruition? Notwithstanding, Joe wants to discuss this at a later date, so I'm just curious as to when this committee will get down to brass tacks.
Well,
Good question.
Again, I think that the good part about this is in the rules. So there's not that same urgency as the statutory package, which I really believe we need to get together so we can start farming, so to speak.
And to start doing the rules package, that's pretty quick.
Yeah, well, we're close. There are just parts that I think we still need to make sure are we finally there. You've got the rule package. So. Okay.
And Jeff, just for clarification, there's nothing in the statute that precludes this group or the industry continuing to discuss this and arrive at some. But at some point, brass tacks do need to be arrived at.
The other side of it is there is also the PMAC, which at the next meeting, I'm going to be talking about all this and bringing all these packages forward and saying, make sure that these guys who are the representatives of the industry, make sure that they've weighed in on this and that they're good with it. And Ken is actually on the PMAC, and Kevin is on the PMAC, and Bob is recently appointed to the PMAC. Carmela is part of that. So several of the members of the PMAC are here, and they've been active in these meetings. So pest management advisory council. It's kind of like our ag advisory council.
Well, sorry, Jack. Will that body continue to exist? Okay. All right.
That's
another question. Yes. Okay, I'm sorry, didn't mean to get that.
Well, statutorily, that was established. Unless you're planning to remove it statutorily.
Actually, I don't think it's in statute right now. I think wasn't that the
it is.
What?
It's in session law.
Session law.
Yeah, it's in session.
Yeah.
Session law.
Session law.
Different than statute.
Oh, session law.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kirk. I'm just kidding. I'm way in. You love that somebody else is talking, didn't you?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Page 22 on the applicator registration. I know you can't spell this out in the rule, but once this is adopted and signed into and agreed upon, when would your implementation take place? And how many months are you going to give people to reorganize and make this happen? That'd be a policy statement on your part.
Yeah, it'd be an operating procedure. And again, as we operate in government, we would certainly do a tremendous outreach effort to get everybody engaged in this. I'm not engaged in this, but the opportunity to do this when we come to say that we're going to do it.
Well, I'm just thinking,
1,200 licensed companies and what, 8,000-9,000 applicators, and I could go along with servers. Everybody tried to get on there at the same time, so yeah.
Anybody else have comments too, as we move on?
This is a major item.
Everything got moved, and we removed, the changes are highlighted, but the things got moved around. I'm not saying that they were in section over here, but they actually got moved over here. But the changes actually are highlighted, if you look at it, they're kind of gray, you really see it.
Good, page 28. All the way down to the bottom, section C. I'm all for trying to minimize verbiage. To be certified, applicant shall score at least 75% on the general standard score. And why not just say that an applicant has to score 75% on all exams? To simplify it.
Actually, that's the reason it says on the board, it's establishing that you have to take the core and a category specific, and saying all exams, you can't run the risk of someone getting confused of, well, I took and passed this, so I should get a license now. This is letting them know that they have to pass a core and a category
Yeah, but
specific.
that's a good
on
point.
license.
I don't think that verbiage is mentioned anywhere in the rule, that they actually have to take the core first, then take this. This is the first time I think it's mentioned in the rule package, isn't it?
It's actually the same way currently.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay. Page 29. Under the new letter E. E or E, as in Edward. This ties into page 30 at the very bottom as well. This all has to do with the CEU. Here it says an applicator shall maintain a verification of attendance for 2 years. Now, that's fine, but having been involved in a lot of CEU programs, a lot of the CEU providers don't provide some sort of certificate that you were actually there. They keep their own internal record. So is this your way of telling the CEU provider that they're going to physically have to hand the document to the attendee that they were actually there taking the class and doing the CEU?
They kind of have to do that now.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Hardly ever.
We sign a piece of paper with our name and our license number on it, and then
That's it.
we don't keep any kind of record.
Now, sometimes we will give a certificate depending on how elaborate, the course is, but that's about it. Usually they don't happen. So this is what you're saying, this is, and that ties into page 30 at the bottom, is that the provider has to provide a verification of attendance that meets the requirements of. So you got one for the provider, one for the attendee. I'm okay with that, but I'm just saying that right now it doesn't clear all that up.
It used to until maybe 3 years ago.
Go ahead back there.
Jack McClure, Chemtech Supply. The requirement for giving a student a certificate was taken away from all CEU providers several years ago. The replacement for that system was a sign-in sheet, which is required to be turned over to the Office of Pest Management by mail, fax, or a copy sent by email to the head of that department for record keeping. And the provider is required to turn in all of the CEU credit hours to the department by way of email. A hand-delivered opportunity was also taken away. So that's the way the system works right now. Sign-in sheets, email or fax to the department, and the provider by email or through the computer system documents the credit hours for each student.
See, in agriculture, we have them sign in, and then at the end, when we do it, at the end of class, we then give them a form that says they attended the course. And that's kind of our mechanism to ensure everybody stays for the entire time.
Depends on me.
What's that?
Depends on me.
Well, yeah, when they're huge meetings, and I've never seen a huge meeting until I went and spoke at some of these structural meetings. I mean, I'm going to say 500 people. It's never huge. Yeah, you know, in that situation, they just had the sign-in sheet, and that's what they had. And I know with the ag ones, they do the hole punch thing, which when it's broken out into various categories, I think that was the difference. Big structural ones were just big meetings that I went to. Phil, did you?
Well, we just got done with ours, and we basically, I had to report within 10 days of the meeting who attended, and on the website. And it went smooth. It was easy. But no, we were not given anything when they left ours.
Okay, right.
They signed the sheet. I didn't sign the sheet when they left.
Okay.
Ours, we don't release, even with the OPM, the OPM gives the course, they don't immediately gives a sheet. What we tell them is, once your hours are entered, you go to our website, you can actually print your certificate that says you attended and give your verification there.
So could they do that 2 years later?
Yeah.
As long as it's still on.
It's on there, yeah. If it's on there, it's on there.
Yeah, they just have to go to the site and press what the name was, and it comes right up.
Okay, maybe we could just rewrite this so it's reflected a
Yeah.
little more accurately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Michael Pfeiffer, Pesticide Training Resources. I'm kind of shocked that I'm the only one who's been given a credit record on it in the last 23 years. I got 4,000 forms. Well, are we going to have to give, I mean, it seems to me that the attendee has to have something in their little hand. And I also noticed in the proposed rules that for the qualifying party to affirm that an individual's had training, they're supposed to keep a record. So it seems to me you can use the same record sheet and just put a section on there where the attendee signs that sheet having received training, and then the qualifying party gets up for their records too.
Okay. Right. Continue on.
Okay, page 32, letter G. This seems like you pulled this right out of your ag rules, but an applicator shall apply pesticide at a rate provided by a special local need registration. I don't know if too many people in this business actually use special local need documentation for G emergency application. Is that what you're getting at here?
This is just if you're using a product under a special local need that you will have to label with you.
And that's it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have had the special local needs for structural side.
Yeah, but it's not used all that often. When it is used, this is what you want.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Government contractors, termite and pest control. An example would be when BASF was experimenting with their, what they call it, reduced water on the use of terminal.
Phyllis and Faranga, it's our turn. I had to use that special local needs in an emergency situation, and the system was too slow. It couldn't respond fast enough to the emergency.
Okay.
What system are we talking about?
Special local needs. I had an emergency situation at the U of A, and when we went to the state chemist to apply for a variance on a health crisis, rabies, it took them like 2 weeks to respond, but the crisis had to be dealt with within 2 hours.
So that was 20 years ago?
Yes.
Huh? You know, and I'm just thinking special local need is not historically, it's not an emergency situation. A special local need is to address use of a product in a manner that, you know, you may want to change the application method, you may want to change the application rate. That's what a special local need is. meant to address something, and that could have been a situation, but it's not intended to address an emergency situation. Good, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, go ahead, page 33, under Article C, number 1. Just for continuity, you've got here that name, address, telephone number of the business licensee. Everywhere else in the rules, you always throw in private owner, political subdivision, et cetera, et cetera. I wonder if you should have that language there as well. So for instance, we store chemicals, I'm getting at, we're not business license, so we have to put down the name of the political subdivision. Because you got that language throughout here. Try to go down to A here at the very bottom of page 33. Business licensee, registered private owner, subdivision. I'm just saying it'd flow better if you added the same language up to C1.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yes. The only reason it just refers to applicator. That's why I'm wondering if it's not in there. It just refers to applicator.
Well, this is a service container, and you want that. This is the information that you want on the container.
Okay.
And then going down to J. Didn't really see the sense for this one because it's picking on fumigants by themselves. Would it be better just to say that an applicator shall not store pesticides within a residential structure or in the cab of a vehicle? Instead of just letter J, sorry, page 33.
Trying to keep notes and So your suggestion was, I'm sorry?
Well, I would strike out the word fumigant and just add the word pesticide.
No, actually, that's... We'd have to have... this was specifically meant to address fumigants.
I understand that.
But what you're saying is we need to have another one that says an applicator shall not store pesticides in the cab of the vehicle. And I think I want to draw attention to fumigants. I mean, I want to, I came from another state where, in the winter it got cold and they stored the fumigants in the office. And that's not a good thing. So I want to make sure that, unfortunately.
Don't go to the office. We still use some of the old organophosphate compounds out there. One of those things busts open the cab of the truck, and you're bailing out of there as fast as you can.
Okay. All right.
For this thing.
What about the food guys carrying that chlorine gas in the back of the truck?
Yeah, they're not regulated.
Okay.
Yeah, page 35, under the letter A, performing wood destroying insect inspection.
Yes.
I'm still trying to get my hands on this new category scheme. So what you're saying here is that if all you're doing is an insect inspection, all you really need is that first license category, or the second license category. Which could be the application itself or the inspection itself. So we're no longer separating the two. Is that the way you're looking at it?
Well, it's category,
Isn't it two? Category 2, I think it is.
yeah, it's 2, and then we have A, B, and C.
Yeah.
And A is the management, B is inspection, and C is for, those folks are just treating power poles.
Right.
And so what we foresee is most people come in and get category 2. Or they could just come in and get category 2A. So
you're going to differentiate, we're going to have a 2, A, B, and C again? Or we're just going to have a 2?
we're going to have a 2 if you're going to do, if you're going to spray or treat for termites and do inspections. If you're just going to do inspections, you can get 2A.
So if I'm a home inspector and I want to get certified for termite inspection, I would need to be licensed category 2. 2A.
2A. Well, so we actually have.
We went down that road once before, and it got pretty complicated.
We actually have, continuing on a couple pages, there's something written in here, and we'll see what, we think about.
Yeah, I got comments on that too.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Yeah, it was the same comment I had on page 36 of the comment. I was confused by that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
36 was where we were, we had the one gentleman who came in at the meeting and he was complaining that he had gone through the whole process of doing all this stuff. And this was our attempt to allow them to do inspections without doing, without making a profit off of that, basically off that inspections, you know, because there's Kevin brought forward some language from, remember their law that says they're not supposed to go out and recommend, oh, hire Joe Schmoll, because then there's a conflict of interest. It's to their advantage to find problems because that's going to be monetary benefit to them. And so we were trying to ensure that if somebody was doing that, they weren't going to receive monetary benefit, but we were not, must comply with the Corporate Business License and QP record keeping requirements, but he didn't have to go through their 2A.
Okay.
That's where I was looking at it. So, I mean, that's a big change. So, you know, this is the first time it's in here, so we're very open to any comments from folks. Good thing you're in the front row.
I don't even know where to start, so I'll just finish. This discriminates against every PMP in the state of Arizona, and it does not protect the consumer because though I am not familiar with the home inspector's insurance, I would assume taking away the QP and the business license, you have to require some certificate of insurance. All you'll get is a certificate of insurance, which will not include the coverage and substance of the policy. And I would bet you dollars to donuts that a home inspector's E&O insurance specifically excludes wood destroying insects. Kevin Etheridge, Contractors, Termite, and Pest Control. Kevin Etheridge, as chairman of the PMAC, in our last PMAC meeting, and this is part of public record, so I can fill you in. The PMAC has asked staff specifically to look at the PTR's rule and regulation because as we reviewed it and read it at the last PMAC meeting, it would appear that they are in violation of their own rules and regulations by performing wood destroying insects and inspections.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Others agree? Anybody else? You do some. So
I can concur with Kevin said.
All right, thank you.
Harvey Logan, I do too. I concur with what Kevin said. I think in California that the home inspector organization specifically prohibit termite inspections. If they want to do termite inspections, get a license.
And I think that's what Kevin, you were thinking that the law here actually makes that. I'm not sure that we came to the same conclusion, but we need to look at that again. I'm glad Kevin brought that up.
Yeah, I brought my get a license.
Okay, all right, we have to. Go ahead.
Henry Scheicher with International Accommodations. As you might recall, several meetings ago, several people stood up who actually do inspections, and they said the only thing that stood in their way was not the registered contractors rules, it was the OPM rules that required them to have a license for that plus a QP plus a separate business license, which just made it completely untenable, and that if all those things went away, they would go back to, one person had already been driven out of the market because of the requirement for keeping all those additional licenses and the expenses involved in those licenses. But it was not an issue of insurance, because they could get the insurance. That was not the problem. It was the licenses and the overhead of those licenses that were required by OPM.
I remember the one lady stood up with her husband was a home inspector. Huh? Okay. Go ahead.
Bob Wagner, Wagner Constellations. They're responsible, like Henry said, so that's the cost of doing business. We have to pay the same costs. We have to go through the same training. We have to go through the same licensing that they may have to. So my response to that is let them do what they have to do to protect the public. Because that's what it's about.
We'll look into that. I mean, I'm glad Kevin brought that up again, because we're going to look at that. I think we kind of got sidetracked because we've been working on this, so we'll look at that again to see what that says, because there was some language, and I just don't remember what it said. So, was there somebody else raising your hand?
We were just talking, it was well said.
Okay. All right. Continue on.
Page 42. Skip it. Wow. The other pages are most of the process.
Jack, did you get him there? Right there? Go ahead, Kevin.
Sorry, page 39. Kevin Etheridge, Contractors, Termite Pest Control. I just have a question on the 3-year.
3-year what?
3-year warranty.
Yes.
Reduction from a 5-year warranty to a 3-year warranty when you perform pre-treatments. What are you going to do with the 5-year warranties that are in play when this goes through the legislature? Does that mean that they've been reduced, or do they stay in place?
The law, I think the law that was in effect at the time of when the work was done is the law that covers what they're doing.
You won't be right now.
I had a question. Thank you.
Anywhere up to 42?
42. Letter D, number 1 and 2. This is where the QP provides immediate supervision. And we've got 5 applicators, or 5 uncertified and 2 uncertified. I don't quite understand the rationale behind those 2. If it was me, I would say 2 uncertified applicators for a restricted use pesticide and or a fumigation category, personally.
Okay. I mean, we just put that out there to, because that's one of the concerns, we have the uncertified, Lynn, you talked about that, why do we even have this? We're trying to put in something to make sure that when these people are dealing with these things, they're concerned that they're, we put this out there. I mean, do people think 2 is better than 5? I guess we're trying to be practical, so.
Well, my point with the 2 is if you do fumigation and restricted use, now you're usually talking about class 1, class 2 toxic pesticides. The other categories, which is a wood destroying management category or the aquatic, we're looking at more warming related type products, possibly.
So you were wanting to put restricted use and
Fumigation.
fumigation together? See,
That's my 2 cents.
not aquatic. You think aquatic? See, to me, I always just think you screw up a water body, it's screwed up.
Yeah, you can. You kill fish and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Still, yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm just, to me, water is always a big concern. I mean, there's such an opportunity to make a big mistake.
Or just eliminate the 2, just have 1 figure.
Well, that's what in my mind, that's where I was going, is putting it down to 2 for all of them.
Yeah, leave it at 2.
Make it simple. Any comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, Joe Sig with Arizona Farm Bureau. I'm not in the business, so I'm just asking the question. I just shudder a little bit that government is deciding what appropriate supervision is for all such circumstances.
Thank you.
Well, there actually is, federally, there's direct supervision is defined, but it just says they're available if and when needed.
Defined but not required.
No, it's required.
Required by the federal?
Yeah, we've actually cited people for not providing direct supervision.
Under FIPRA?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're not attempting to set a different standard than what the FIPRA would be?
We're setting a number. We're not setting a new parameter. We're setting a specific number, just trying to look at from how many people could they manage. And
with respect, does FIPRA set a number?
It does not. But that's what my comment was going to be is I'm working on a national committee that they're looking at revisions to the certification training, and that's one of the earlier proposals, and I don't know, because it's gone into that black box where you don't know what's actually going to come out. They were going to be setting numbers in that.
Can I ask a question? Is there anybody out here that does fumigation for a living? Jack was here, he's gone, I guess now.
Phyllis?
Phil, I mean, what would you feel, would you really be comfortable having to supervise 5 unlicensed applicators doing a house fumigation?
Actually, we used to have a security guard there, and
I mean, we're talking about the most potentially harmful public product out there on the market, if not done correctly, so.
We got another gentleman in the back that hadn't spoken, so please.
Tom McCormick, General Exterminating. We actually hold our fumigation license, and we used to fumigate for gophers with Fumitops, which has been highly restricted now. Never once would we ever allow an unlicensed person out there. I mean, only someone who's been specifically trained in fumigation, in my opinion, unless you're throwing a tarp over a house, should ever be out there handling a restricted use product that's like that. It's too dangerous, you can harm people, and you need to know exactly what you're doing. I personally don't feel that you should allow any out there.
And do you carry extra liability for that?
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And they work with a buddy system, usually.
Go ahead.
Henry Schneider, International Accommodations. I'm not quite sure what the logic is behind having an unlicensed applicator handling restricted use pesticides. It seems to be a logically very poor thing to set up, and certainly prone to causing accidents.
Well, I guess I'm unclear as well. Is this intended as a transitional rule? So these people have been hired, they're not certified yet. Because ultimately, all applicators have to be certified, do they not? So is it a transitional thing?
Yes, that's the way I would see it.
Okay.
As training to give them their hours.
And Alan, do you have any insight on this?
Just the fact that in the case of Fumitops, the label, it actually has different language than what the current rule does right now, where the immediate direct supervision. The state of Arizona right now has a higher standard for immediate supervision requirements on using fumigants specifically in the rule.
Well, and this is, again, we were looking at it, trying to make sure that from a safety standpoint, that we weren't going to go out there, if industry is, what are you guys thinking?
Yeah. Jack, Jimmy Fox. My understanding on this was kind of intended for laborers who were helping with things like barbecue. Mm-hmm. They weren't necessarily the applicators, but they were trying to wrap that up so that not everybody involved had to be certified. So there's certain parts of the aspect that are just laborers.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so they don't actually do the application. Okay. And that was my understanding as to why this was written.
That makes sense.
So, but again, anytime you're handling that material, everybody needs to understand the importance of it.
So do we need to set a limit?
To me, it's misleading when you say uncertified applicators. The only reason, unless I'm missing something, the only reason there should be somebody that's being referred to as an applicator, if it's uncertified, is in what should be a very small transitional period between hiring and the certification. I'm not sure that should even be allowed. If you're dealing with, as Jimmy said, laborers that are working, pertinent to the application of these, then call them that.
I think part of it is that the law defines, applicator means any individual who provides pest management services. So
the guy tarping the house isn't providing, well, maybe he is, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a device.
Okay.
So that's
a committee to figure out.
Yeah. Very good. Another committee?
No, that's the device committee.
Well, that might not be a bad idea to defer that question to that subcommittee and see how it applies, and then come back with some wording.
I just think that this has abuse potential. Was my original. And
Yeah, that's
my original problem with it, and that remains.
Excuse me, are there some new fumigation guidelines that came out in the last 2 years that outline this a little bit more specifically?
for the aluminum phosphide type materials that people are talking about using with the gophers, there have been some new label restrictions come into play based on what happened in Utah with the death of those 2 young girls, dealing with how the product can be used how close to buildings and things like that. And the soil fumigants, which is something completely different that I don't think these guys would deal with. There's
Actually, there
huge
is.
changes.
Yeah, no, but actually there is, because golf courses are now having to comply with some of the fumigant regulations.
Okay.
And so that's why I bring that up. That needs to be considered.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking about that, but there's significant changes in dealing with the people who help in that situation. Every one of them has to go through specific training dealing with
Fitted respirators,
Yes,
so on and so
yes.
forth. Right. So that's all part of that language. Does that need to be outlined in here?
No.
Or just reference?
No, I don't think it needs to be outlined here because that's all. That label has become a book, just like the aluminum phosphide products. It's a book now. It's not a label. It's and our law says you have to follow the labeling. So
Well, some of it's not on the, because Arizona is different than some other states in regards to some of those.
Not in this federal section.
But if golf is going to be moved back into ag, we don't need to consider it.
We don't know that.
Although they scratched out golf courses in the statute, so.
okay. Well, we'll put a big question mark on it. What page is that?
42.
Okay. So what I'm gathering, Lynn, you raised originally, it was a concern over abuse of this, and so I guess we were looking at trying to set some kind of limit. I'm hearing perhaps 2 arguments. One of them is let business take care of itself. And am I hearing anything else? Lynn's concerned about abuse, and I want you all to remember that you're all the good guys. You're all doing the right stuff, and so we don't write something in there that wouldn't affect you because you're already doing the right thing. This would potentially affect those people that aren't doing the right thing to ensure that they're not abusing the system. And so there's nothing you can gripe about later on if we don't put it in there. So, just keep that in mind as we're doing this. So.
Harvey Logan Western Surveyor, do you think you should define what an uncertified applicator is allowed to do? Because although through all these hearings and what have you, I don't often agree with Henry, but I'm very much inclined to agree with him on this. I would be very reluctant to see an uncertified applicator handling a human.
I'm uncomfortable with the terminology uncertified applicator.
I am too. But I'm using this because that's what's here.
But
he isn't certified.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things though when we're dealing with. Lynn, you and I tend to think of applicator as the guy who's out there making the application. I think that's what you're thinking too.
Yes,
but
I am.
Based on the definition of the pest management services, somebody who's out there helping in that application is considered an applicator. And so that's where you're getting at perhaps defining an applicator is, I don't know how we can do that based on the definitions that we've got, but I understand there's some clarification that we need to deal with, try to fix this. I don't know.
There's also a definition for applicator.
Yes.
That could come in play.
Yeah, they provide pest management services. That's so.
Robert? I was going to say, in my experience, at least in doing this, the uncertified applicator is the guy who got brought on, who's going to be an applicator, who's in the training phase but doesn't have their license yet. I've had many of the company come to me and having issues, we can say within 90 days because they've worked an applicator for 60 days without a license, and now they've got to wait for the background investigation that's going to take an additional 30 days. Those were the unlicensed applicators. Those are the guys who are in the training process.
So it's transitional.
Yeah, it's transitional. It's not, and whether or not they're using them for unrestricted, I know at least for the restricted use and looking at the law we were looking at specifically, that was tied to termite work. Pre-treatments, final grades, where they actually have two-man crews that are out there doing the work and putting it together. That's at least my take on this based on the experience of dealing with businesses this far.
So if you're doing, send a crew out to do termite work, you've got a certified applicator, you have two certified applicators, you have a certified applicator and a guy who works in the shop and he goes out and helps trench or, I don't know.
Well,
construction.
if I go out and there's always a certified applicator.
Okay.
Or licensed applicator.
Yeah.
He's the one that does the application of the material.
Yeah.
But sometimes I send out my son, who's 17, to drill holes and get trenches.
Okay.
That's all he does. He just handles the equipment.
Right.
So we're really talking about two different things. And I think it probably, maybe it's in here somewhere, but it needs to be made clear that a laborer, with all due respect to your son, a laborer or somebody that's...
Trying to teach him he doesn't want to do that.
Right.
Go to school.
Yeah, go to U of A. Amen. Real school,
Okay, so I think you're correct. I mean, we've got two parties and we need to see if there's a way to somehow deal with the two parties. Okay, got it. Okay. Kurt, did you start that?
I did.
Damn. What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Phyllis, it's our turn. This is first-hand experience. I wouldn't even let a trainee near the phosphotoxin or the chemical at all, even as a trainee. Maybe the hauling of equipment. We had an experience where it was a student that died in our classroom trying to get a work-study program going. He tripped over the bucket of water with phosphotoxin in his hand. He wasn't even able to make it to the door, and he was gone to grab his respirator. He failed to put that respirator on as he was working. He was a trainee. You don't even want a trainee near the chemical. Outside of the truck, fine. But not.
Thank you. All right, continue on.
Continue. Page 43. QP management. Letter A. Used to be that the QP had to be physically present at the office every 30 days, and now we're dropping it down to 14. I know we talked about that. Where did that 14-day come from? Is that up for negotiations?
Everything's up for negotiation. I think
I'd throw it out there.
Part of this was, this is John Bolt's wanting to, we're making this guy responsible for all this stuff, and so he wanted to ensure that there was some sort of, there was actually a connection with that QP and the business. Otherwise, the guys are never showing up. So, go ahead.
Ken Frederick, I'm used to it. I actually went and spoke to the QP at Oregon, Jim Kruger, about this. Because he goes every 30 days, he goes to every branch office around Arizona for Oregon, because he's responsible for the state. He said in 14 days he couldn't do that. So the question is, when I talked to Steve Breitweiser in Tucson, he's a qualified party. Now, why can't you just have a qualifying party registered in every office? That way Jim doesn't have to go around the whole state every 2 years. If I understand.
Or have enough QPs that they can make it.
Yeah.
Maybe a company, I'm not saying they should or shouldn't, but maybe a company the size of Oregon ought to have two.
Well, they have a lot more than that.
Okay. All right. Have enough then to get.
Yeah. But they had no problem with it if there was a way to get around what guy had to do it.
Right now, Mr. Kruger's doing that because he wants to, because the law does not require it. You have to be in the main office once every 30 days. Branch office right now, there currently is a requirement. We're adding it, and it's in here later on, but the main office, every 30 days. Branch office does what the branch managers are for. The branch managers then report to the qualifying party.
This is quarter for the branch office. It's every quarter. The main office, it's every 14 days.
Yeah, I think it goes with us.
I didn't.
Yeah, well, so does that make it better?
Well, it does, but I still have an issue.
What's your issue?
My issue is it's every quarter, and I've seen it happen a lot, and it's going to continue. So what you're saying is every quarter, on March 31st, I can stay at the office, spend the night, be there April 1st, and I'll cover 2 quarters.
Some people like to think out.
Robert points this out all the time.
Happens all the time. Are we going to allow that, or should we specify that there's got to be a break between the 4? I don't know. Or is that government being too intrusive?
Well, I think
Getting pretty close to it.
differently.
Close to my
Yeah, if you put it in there, you have to be there once every 120 days. You know, that way they couldn't do the
Overnight thing.
Yeah. So if we change that to 120 days,
I'm just throwing out for discussion, I've just seen this happen often.
personally, based on what this whole thing was about, I'm better with 120 days because then at least the QP actually has to get to the branch office. So, right. Because it happens to me all the
Page 48, Jeff. This is under the record section, so part B, 789. That's been around for a long, long time. Are we just going to maintain the status quo with those years of record keeping? Or is there room for negotiation?
Records under A7, I believe that's...
5 years is all the wood destroying.
Yeah, so actually that could be changed to 3.
Well, that's one. What page are you on? Page 48, section B, 789, that's all the years of record keeping.
So actually that should, in my mind, that should be changed to 3 to go along with that.
Yeah, 5 has been around forever, I know, but I'm just asking why.
Yeah, that's good.
Number 10 says the same thing.
Yeah, you're right. I missed that.
No way.
So we're looking at, is everybody okay with 3? We changed it to 3 years? For all the wood destroying application? Nobody cared?
And it just keeps it along, the records along with the WDI.
Oh, it's all the same.
Yeah, well, the warranty's 3 years.
Yeah,
it's going to be the
that's
same.
why
And I know this, on the very last page, hallelujah, page 51. Actually, it's not the last page, sorry. Page 51. I know this stirred a lot of controversy as a groundwater protection impact.
Yes.
Are we gonna spend some more time on this in a future meeting, or?
Actually, that's a subcommittee of
Oh, that's right, never mind.
Kevin and Lynn and myself.
Are you gonna include the NEPI permits now? in the
No.
system? That's executive.
It's not ours. DQ.
I know it is, but okay. Keep it out.
We're not gonna touch it. And just the 705 or 7-505, you know, I changed that just, actually Casey changed, but I asked him to make some changes there. And a suggestion that came to me, which I thought was a good one, this is still going to be changed, but it just says the county of use. Somebody suggested that be the incorporated area or something like that. So that way you can say, like, if you're in Phoenix, you're in Phoenix. If you're in Mesa, you're in Mesa. I mean, it helps to narrow the scope down a little bit more.
Okay, that would be easy.
Is there a tool out there to get?
Yes.
That quickly and easily allows us to get from one to the other. That's my concern. Is otherwise what we do is we get all these by zip code, and then we have to go and somehow do a.
I think the county's too vague if you want to use this as the reporting mechanism that we discussed. Maricopa County can use ours.
Okay. Well, let me talk to Hugo and see if there's anything that he could do that would somehow bring that together.
We have to put the parking.
Yeah, so that would cover for those that are post-construction treatment type thing.
We currently have a table that zip code. So you put a zip code that represents city, state, and county.
Okay, so maybe we have a mechanism within the OPM structure already that might allow us to do that. So, other things to go ahead. I'll let
just one question, if you don't mind. I would like to ask the farmers about this water reporting.
Yes.
And such. I mean, when I talk to, because I'm somewhat active in the National Pest Management Association, when I talk to people about this, you know, they get a heart attack because nobody wants DEQ to get into our business. You guys have to deal with it now because of the groundwater thing. So, and I understand talking to John Boltzmore why you guys would like this information. It's more for protection than anything else. But this is going to be a real hard sell. So somehow we need to be able to.
Well,
I mean, I don't like this. I'll be quite honest. I don't want any part of it. But if it's a, you know, I'm just one voice amongst the whole.
Well, and I think that's what you know. I think the most important thing is if we do this, it needs to be done in a very practical manner. I mean, there's several discussion topics that have gone on, you know, internally, just talking about could there be limits set. You know, I mean, if you're doing over a certain limit, again, I looked through this list, the email that Kevin sent, you know, the pre-emergent are going to be the big ones in my mind, and then the post-construction treatment will probably be the large ones. Could we go a step further? Could we say only those products that have been detected in groundwater be reported? You know, I mean, these are the types of things where we can, at least in my mind, these are all, I'm just speaking for me, these are all options that are available. And again, trying to make it as least cumbersome as possible, but I think, you know, just my impression is from the agriculture side, this is an important.
I understand that because you know they want data, and I understand the data.
Yeah.
But when the homeowner can buy all these products and apply them, I just don't see how the data is accurate. And I'm sure you guys will ask the same questions.
We've had the same discussion.
Yeah.
We tried the same argument, but it didn't work.
However, if we have to do it and it's limited, I mean, pest control applications, I don't see why that would have to be recorded. We use such little amounts. And a pre-treat, when you got to pre-treat 100,000 square feet on a commercial building and you're using a midi-cloprid, if that needs to be reported, that's a lot of material that you're throwing down. So, but if I'm putting down 48 gallons of a solution around the exterior of the home, do I need to report that? It's very little extra ingredient. Those are the things that have to be discussed, and I know you put that in your email.
One of the things we're talking about is this conceptually, and this is the reason why I wanted to ask you if you wanted to be on this committee, is just for this discussion. Because I know you're adamant about it. But just based on Kevin's description of your guys' business, applications inside a slab, you guys spray it on there, you put cement over the top of it, there's no water. My personal opinion is I don't think that needs to be reported. If you're doing something extra outside the slab, where you're trenching like your son does, you put a high concentration of product in there, I don't see another way around that to be reported.
And so if I put 48 gallons of imidacloprid at 0.05% around the foundation of a house.
Around the foundation of the house?
On the exterior.
Yeah, that needs to be reported.
It's in a 6 to 8 inch trench and you bury it.
That could be
well, I understand. I just wanted to clarify what I meant there.
And spraying weeds, anything topical like that, most of what my understanding of is general pest control probably wouldn't qualify. I mean, it's not a big scope of products as what you think.
No, I understand. I saw that list.
And I guess what I'd like to do is we are still dealing with unknown, which was what we were supposed to try to come together. So I'd like to, you know, I'd like to table it and let's come up with what we think is the idea for what that is, and then come back to this group. And then if people think we're absolutely crazy, you know, they can scream and holler. You can scream and holler again when we get into the meeting. So
because this is on the agenda for the subcommittee to.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Question: with a consensus with regards to area, zip code, county, where were you leaning on that?
I think zip code would be good if we could do it that way. I think that'd be great.
Okay. All right.
That narrows us. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Dave Dixon, I had a question on page 50, A1A, reporting incidents, death or illness of an individual or non-target animal. If you're out spraying and a snake crawls across what you just sprayed, or a cottontail and they get sick and die, are you reporting that? What are you going after here on reporting non-target? Because you can say arthropods that weren't on the label that died. Am I going to report those? How far do you take this, and what's the intent of that?
Well, this again was moved over from the ag side of things.
I understand killing a cow or a horse, but a cottontail or a snake or...
So for example, I put down a rodenticide contract in a tamper-proof bait station. The 14-year-old kid is just a true incident, okay? The 14-year-old boy in the house goes and opens it. The dog ate 2 ounces of the contract. I ended up having to pay a $400 vet bill. Would I have to report that?
You gotta buy a better tamper-proof container. I'm kidding.
Well,
I had the same thing happen to me.
I don't believe I should have had to pay the bill, but
I'm not taking
14-year-old son.
I'll give you an instance for us. You know, we fog about 600,000 acres a year in Mariposa County. We get a lot of people call in claiming they got sick based on our fogging operation. So we have to report every incident of some irate customer. You know, where do you stop this thing?
Right.
So, you know, I guess in my mind, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about more of the bulk release. And
why not just strike non-target animal? I mean, if you have a death or an illness of an individual, that clearly should be reported.
Yeah, and supposed, and it's also confirmed by medical personnel. So
Are you getting at cats maybe? My cats, dogs,
yeah. So, thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. We need to figure something out that's appropriate for that. Bulk release is where you spill. I mean,
I'm just trying to answer questions I know that I'm going to get asked.
Well, what's a bulk release? Anything over 2 gallons?
You know, agriculture folks ask me that one too all the time. They say, well, what is a bulk release? And
Oh, good order.
What's that?
Oh, good order.
You know, what I've told people is it something that is it going to draw attention? Somebody else is going to be concerned about it. You know, let us know. It's a judgment call. I mean, it is a judgment call. If you know that you spilled 300 gallon tank, you know, that's definitely a bulk release. But I spilled 2 gallons and I contained it and I cleaned it up and it was on my property or whatever. You know, is that something that's going to draw attention to? And part of it is we don't want people hiding stuff. You know, and so if you think somebody's going to call in that something happened, let us know. It's not like we do anything. We've gone out on some of the bulk releases in agriculture, and we've ensured that they're cleaned up. You know, I mean, they've gone out there and contained and dug a hole. We've been out there and we've, you know.
So that's, I'm at a pre-treat site a couple of years ago. Pump is going, all of a sudden the hose popped a hole in it. So I run out, I turn it out, and about 10 gallons came out onto the ground, and I had my spill kit, so I cleaned it all up. I didn't report that. I didn't feel like I was neat. I cleaned it all up and threw it on the pre-treat site.
You know, would a gallonage be better for people? I mean, does that make people feel more comfortable?
I think it's one of those things where you know it when you see it.
Well, and that's the other side I'm thinking about is you have a truck sitting, and we actually a truck sitting on Main Street in a town, and all of a sudden there's stuff leaking all over the road. You know, is that a bulk release? Well, in my mind, I'd want to report that because I want to make sure that people knew, you know, that the state agency knew. So yeah,
you don't have to bother reporting DOT and everything.
Some people
want to get you.
Well, yeah, and so it's, you're right. Okay, anything else?
Just page 58 under penalties, I'm assuming you're going to expand that because
Yes.
I'm confused about your point.
And that was just to show you that that's a system that, or a process in work. I wanted you to know that that's there.
Is this the old matrix that you used to use?
Yes, it will be. And the Department of Agriculture, we have a point system laid out in the rules, so everybody knows they can go in, and we actually supply a point sheet if we issue a citation, we provide the point sheet so they can see how the penalty was arrived at. And so this would be kind of along that model, so people understand where things are coming from. Okay? But we're not there yet. I mean, we don't have it put together yet. So, okay? All right. We'll make changes.
Point of order.
Yes. You
Get close to 3.
Okay.
We'll turn it into a pumpkin.
All right. Well, no, and I said we'd be out here at 3. That's what I said.
So I said point of order. Just
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. We're still going to go to call to the public, so we'll get there. Again, I want to cover these additional discussions per item, or additional discussion items. Just so you're aware of them and think about them a little bit. 18 minimum age for certification. That's one of the things I know is coming federally, and I think it only makes sense. So we have that in rule right now. Well, and that's actually what we've heard is the insurance companies, they say they won't insure somebody who's not 18, but I'm guessing if you paid them enough money, they probably would.
So this is going to tie into your devices. Remember that kid that was doing the roof rack, putting screens over air vents on roofs? And he got busted by this department for doing pest control.
Not this department.
It wasn't this department, yeah.
How old was he? 16, 17, something like that? Yeah. Okay.
And again, we bring this up again, the criminal background investigation by employers, and we're getting a fair amount of pushback on that, so I want to get a decision made on what do we want to do. I still sit in my seat where I said originally is it's not our business. Let them do it.
I honestly thought I made a motion to that effect.
You did, and it's on the front of here. But
so it's done. Seriously.
Well, that's what
unless somebody wants to talk about it, that's great. But I mean, pushback is pushback.
Yeah.
Well, even if it just says somewhere that if it's required, that doesn't mean the department has to do it.
Well, and that's the kind of pushback that I've been getting. Not that we require it, but that we have a law that a business has to do that. And again, I still sit in the court that says, as a business, you assume the liability. If you don't do it, you're stupid.
That's right.
But
it's up to the business.
That's right. That's a business. So,
It's a business decision.
and then the qualifying party again, like I said, we didn't talk about private registration. You know, this is talking about the private owner and the governmental entities. We need to come to grips with that. Go ahead, Jimmy.
I just have a question, and we probably should save it for another discussion. There's some loopholes there that I think we need to discuss. The private registration.
Okay.
Just because it states that if you're renting out your residence to someone else and providing any type of pest control, that you need to be have the qualifying party applicators certification. Majority of those residential properties that are rented out, a lot of them have a outside guardian service that does that. That when they go to do that service, they fall under the minimums, but they don't have to be certified. How do you regulate that?
They're spraying weeds?
Weeds, right.
Landscape.
Landscape company.
But then you say they're also coming in and spraying the building? They shouldn't be doing that.
They're spraying the building, they're spraying weeds, they're spraying, whatever. But does that make them out of compliance then? They're not registered? They're not QP?
No. I mean, as long as they follow the law that says they're exempt and they're following that exemption, they're coming in like they always do to do their lawn service, they would be legal. Okay. So, I want people to think about that again because I know some industry has real concerns about this private registration, and I was, kind of looking at this as a good thing. State agency, political subdivisions, again requiring qualifying party. Probably same goes with the school districts. And then finally, what I said originally, we have the QP requirement set right, and we're still working on that. Again, with this, I guess we're going to have to start drafting a report. So that's just realize that that's on our plate of starting to do. I'm saying OPM. We're going to in Department of Ag. We're going to start drafting the report. So
and it's the report. You're going to draft it, but it's the report from the task.
Yes.
To the legislature and the government.
And if you look on the second page of the agenda, that says what this report is supposed to address. And I've got it finally fairly cryptic, but review of all laws and regulations that govern structural pest management, review organizational configurations within the AEDA for structural pest management, review personnel and funding issues for administration of structural pest management within the AEDA, and statutory changes to accomplish the future structural pest management program. So that's what the report has to address. So that's what we'll start working on. And I think we're doing those things through what we've done, but we need to write a report that says, here are these things. So with that...
one more question before we go to public. We discussed briefly about the examinations and that sort of thing.
Yes.
I was asked this question, when is your RFP going out?
It's out.
And it's already out?
It's out.
Okay. Deadline coming up soon?
It's July... I don't remember. It's July...
Is there something at the state? Is there? Go to the request for bid.
Go to the state procurement site and
hold it up there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Jack, what's it an RFP for?
It's for, right now, in the Office of Pest Management, all the testing is done by a private entity. And so you go in and you pay a fee to the private entity and they proctor the exam.
Okay.
And so it's that contract expired, and so this is to get the contract going again for the next 5 years.
Jack?
Yes.
The subcommittee,
Yes.
what is our task and when do you want information back? I.e. the golf course one. Do you want recommendations on?
Yeah, that's a good question, Phil. I mean, you kind of need to go over the mechanics of how that's going to work. Are you going to convene them all, Jack? And
I'm guessing I'm going to have to, just because I sit here in this chair. But my goal would be to have them at least have met by the next task force meeting, so we could at least come back with something. And I say that realizing that next week I'm gone for training Monday through Wednesday, and then I come back to the office for a week, and then the week of the 4th of July I'm going to Minnesota for a week, and so I will call the meetings. We'll call it before the next meeting. We'll try to come back to the next meeting with some sort of recommendations.
again, I haven't been here, but it was clear to me, so forgive me if this is presumptuous, but I would think you ought to convene these subcommittees. They should do their work. And then the next time we meet, we should be making decisions on those questions and the remaining ones here. And we're getting, I'm not going to say finish line, but we're getting close to doing it.
I agree.
Okay.
Everybody good with that? Okay.
Yeah, these subcommittees deal with rule and regs, right?
Correct.
So you're not in the huge rush that you are statutorily.
No, but I
You can
think
actually set it off.
Yeah, but I think some of these things are important enough to people that, I mean, that's why we're kind of doing the laws and the rules at the same time, because it's a real change for this industry having this generic law, and so we follow it up with the rules so people see that the specificity is still there.
And I think it's important when it goes, when the statute goes to the legislature, people are going to want to know, and rightfully so, what the rules are, so that that debate can happen with all the facts on the table.
Okay. But not only rules and regs, there might be organizational configurations and funding in some of the committees we talked about, especially in ours.
All right. With that, we're gonna go to the call from the public. And again, realize we're limiting you to 2 minutes, and when I start giving you the, you know that you're done. So I wish somebody had a stopwatch. I don't. So go ahead. Please introduce yourself and have a...
Courtney Levinas with Capital Consulting, our firm represents AZPPO. I just wanted to hand out the completed survey that I think many of you all know that we started, that we released to the industry on May 14th. The cover page is just a summary of that survey. And then there's actually 2 surveys attached for your attention. The first stapled copy, the big copy, sorry, I know we filled it 2 times. But it's all of the questions, all of the responses, including comments that were provided. The second survey is a crosstab report, and basically it outlines from the perspective of small business, 10 or fewer employees, what their responses were to the survey. To focus on, I know we've gotten some responses that small business has been ignored or not paid attention to in this process. So we specifically pulled their responses on this as well. We're happy to pull any other crosstab reports that you want. If there's more information, please don't hesitate to let us know.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Get ready. Chair, Task Force members, my name is Phyllis M. Kalang, President of It'sOurTurn.com. Last month I was summoned to speak with several federal heads of state and the Interior Secretary. They wanted to know what they can do to help small business owners jumpstart the economic recovery and create jobs. My recommendations: there need to be a separation of economics and state. Job creation should be part of the regulatory review process, and that process should remain independent and made stronger. Let us compete again and equalize the playing ground. That same week, I talked to a fellow PCO who refused to get involved with this process. I thought to myself, individuals who shut their eyes and shut their mouths and do nothing but sit on the sidelines as our freedoms and economic liberties are chipped away are just as guilty as those associations, oligarchs, and bureaucrats who proactively destroy our freedoms and promote overregulation and block reform. I met with several state senators, one of which told me to get a lobbyist and next time bring lots of money. That's just how things work up here. Again, I thought to myself, we have found yet another way in America to destroy our liberties, our freedoms, and our economic process. It's Our Turn may not have enough influencing money for the governor's re-election campaign, and we may not have enough money to manipulate facts and information with surveys and a paid lobbyist from a public relations firm. What supporters of It's Our Turn have is plenty of courage, and courage is what you need to totally reform and change protectionistic laws that support inequities, status quo, and socialism within our industry. It's Our Turn will continue to challenge you, provoke you, and encourage small business owners to fight for their economic freedoms while participating in this biased process. Why? Because strengthening small business is now a matter of national security. We will not be supporting any OPM Task Force recommendations that encourage the same crony culture that got us here in the first place. This process and recommendations reek of increased government control of our businesses, promote poverty, and foster conflict of interest. Thank you very much.
All right. Anyone else? Good.
It went out on the website today.
Doug Dykstra, Superintendent of White Mountain Country Club. I'm also current president of Cactus and Pines Golf Course Superintendent Association of Arizona. I can probably pretty much speak from the superintendents across the state, but we really strongly believe that we belong with the Department of Agriculture. On a personal note, this is the third state which I've been in structured pest control situations or whatever. In the other 2 states, we were in the Department of Agriculture, and we also had reciprocating with at least 4 other states. In all those states that we were involved in, You know, we never had a qualifying party, we never had that business license. All that was kind of redundant because as an applicator, licensed applicator, we were responsible for everything that we do. So it was kind of a redundant thing to have an extra situations there, which when I moved to the state and found out all these different things, it was like, wow, where's this all coming from?
Cronyism.
You know? Actually, even as I've been here, I felt like it was just like an extra punishment to our clubs having to pay all that extra money for doing the same thing that we've been doing for years. So, that's it.
Anyone else? Okay. Hearing none, tentatively, hopefully we can meet on the 18th.
July?
July.
I think you're crazy. Well, seriously,
I mean, there's one to be done.
You just got too much to do that's kind of outside this committee, this whole committee.
The only reason the 18th is the Pest Management Advisory Council is going to meet, committee is going to meet that day.
Yeah, okay.
So work? What's that? 10 o'clock?
Okay.
That hasn't been set yet.
Oh.
It's,
1 o'clock?
yeah, normally what we've done is the PMAC has been in the afternoon and the task force has been in the morning. We've got the chairman here, so would that work?
Fine. Harvey's going to be
Unfortunately,
gone.
I might not be here. So let's shoot for 7/18 and July 18th and 10 a.m. Okay. With that, thank you all. I appreciate.
Can I make one last comment before we go? I know it's tired and really late, but I've been wanting to say this for the last 3 months, and I've been kind of holding off. And I know it's just a public comment. Yeah. Okay. It's a public comment, so I'll keep it short. You know, for 3 years I've been involved with structural pest control going to agriculture, and it's been a learning process over the 3 years. And this task force has been a pleasure to work with, and this whole process has been a pleasure because of over the 100 companies I talked to personally, and over 600 I talked to via email and such. Agriculture is the place everybody wants to go, and we see it as a professional organization that would regulate us in a good professional way. And it's been interesting to see the extremes. We have some that want no regulation and some that want way too much. But most everybody, by the far majority, wants sensible regulation. And I think this task force is going in that right direction. Now all of us get what we want, but it's going in the right direction. And I appreciate, especially you guys taking this up. It's a big deal, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we're going to be adjourned, and thank you everybody for coming. I appreciate it sitting here for this entire time and your input. So, yeah, you want your favorite?